Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we're diving deep into something that I think is absolutely crucial for anyone working on IT projects, and it's communication.
Oh, absolutely. It can make or break a project, no doubt about it.
Right. And we've got this awesome article by 𝗀𝗏 called How to Master Effective Communication in IT Projects. And it's packed with practical advice. But before we get into that, I think everyone remembers what happened to the Knight Capital Group back in 2012, right? A software deployment gone wrong.
Ah, yes. Classic example, unfortunately.
Yeah. Communication breakdowns during that deployment cost them like $440 million in just 45 minutes.
Yeah, it's a stark reminder of what's at stake when communication fails. And sadly, cases like that aren't as rare as you might think.
Exactly. So we're going to break down 𝗀𝗏's article and see what we can learn from it. He talks about 5 key takeaways for leaders, and I think these are applicable to, well, anyone involved in an IT project, really.
Definitely. Regardless of your role, good communication skills are invaluable.
So the first takeaway is leading with clarity during crises. So let's say a major system crashes. What's the first thing a leader should do?
Well, first of all, don't panic. You need to stay calm and project that calmness to the team. It's easy for everyone to get caught up in the chaos of a crisis, but a leader needs to be the anchor.
So like clear-headed decision-making.
Exactly. And that means clear communication as well. Everyone needs to know what's happening, what steps are being taken, and what their role is in resolving a situation.
So no more like frantic emails flying back and forth with everyone just adding to the confusion.
Definitely not. A well-defined communication protocol is crucial here. Who needs to be informed? How will that information be disseminated? What's the chain of command? These things need to be decided beforehand, not in the heat of the moment.
It's like having a fire drill before the fire, right?
Exactly. Preparation is key. That's why having a crisis management plan in place is so important. It outlines exactly how the team should communicate and respond in different crisis scenarios.
So you're not scrambling to figure things out when the pressure's on. All right, so that's leading with clarity during crises. The next takeaway 𝗀𝗏 talks about is bridging communication gaps. And he specifically mentions tools like Slack and Microsoft Teams. I mean, these are pretty ubiquitous in today's workplace, but do they actually help?
They can, but it's not as simple as just, signing up for an account. It's about using these tools effectively.
So like not just creating a million channels for every little thing.
Right. You need a clear structure, clear guidelines for communication. Otherwise, these platforms can actually become a source of distraction and information overload.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's like you're trying to bridge a communication gap, but you end up creating a whole new chasm of chaos.
Exactly. It's about using the tools strategically to streamline communication, not just add to the noise.
Okay, so structure and strategy are key. Now, the next takeaway, standardizing protocols, I'll admit, sounds a bit, I don't know, boring.
Yeah, I get it. But trust me, this is one of those things that seems kind of, dull until you see the impact it can have.
Okay, so convince me. Why is standardizing protocols so important?
Think about it. When everyone is following the same set of guidelines, the same processes, there's less room for misinterpretation, less room for error. It's about creating consistency and predictability.
Right, because inconsistency can lead to all sorts of problems.
Exactly. Let's say you're developing software. If there's no standard process for code review, you might end up with bugs slipping through the cracks because one developer did a thorough review and another just skimmed the code.
Yeah, I see your point. So it's like having a checklist for every stage of the project.
Exactly. Checklists, documented processes, templates, these are all tools that can help ensure consistency and reduce ambiguity.
Okay, I'm going to see the light. It's about removing those potential points of failure. All right, then we've got mitigating risks proactively, which sounds a lot more exciting.
Absolutely. This is all about being proactive rather than reactive, identifying potential risks early on and taking steps to mitigate them before they become major issues.
So how do you actually do that?
Well, one approach that's really effective is agile methodology. It emphasizes iterative development, which means you're constantly testing and refining your work as you go.
So it's like building a house brick by brick, making sure each layer is solid before you move on to the next one.
Exactly. And with each iteration, you're gathering feedback, identifying potential problems, and adapting your approach accordingly. It's about building those feedback loops into the process.
Okay, that makes sense. So you're not waiting until the end of the project to discover a major flaw. You're constantly checking and adjusting. And finally, we have the big one. Building trust. I feel like this underpins everything we've been talking about.
It absolutely does. You can have the best tools, the most clearly defined processes, but if there's no trust within the team, it's all for nothing.
Because if people don't trust each other, they're not going to communicate openly, right?
Right? They might be hesitant to share their ideas, to admit mistakes, to ask for help, and that can be incredibly damaging to a project.
So how do you build that trust?
It starts with leadership. Leaders need to foster an environment where open and honest communication is valued, where people feel safe to speak their minds without fear of judgment or repercussions.
So like celebrating successes together, but also being open about failures and learning from them.
Exactly. It's about creating a culture of transparency and accountability. And that, in turn, leads to greater trust and collaboration.
It's like this positive feedback loop. Open communication leads to trust, which leads to even better communication.
Precisely. It becomes ingrained in the team culture.
Okay, so let's recap. We've got these 5 awesome takeaways from 𝗀𝗏's article. First, leading with clarity during crises, having those plans in place, staying calm and communicating clearly. Then, bridging communication gaps, using those tools strategically, not just adding to the noise.
And don't forget standardizing protocols, those checklists, those processes that help ensure consistency and reduce errors.
Right, and then mitigating risks proactively with agile methodologies, constantly testing and refining as you go. And finally, the foundation of it all, building trust, fostering open communication, and creating a culture of transparency.
Yeah, it's not just about preventing disasters. It's about creating a truly collaborative and successful team environment.
Exactly. Now, 𝗀𝗏 ends his article with a question, and I want to throw it out to you listening. He says, what's one communication challenge you've faced in your projects? How might these takeaways have changed the outcome? I mean, we've all been there, right?
We have, and reflecting on those challenges, seeing how these strategies could have made a difference, that's how we learn and grow.
Right. Because at the end of the day, effective communication is the key to unlocking the full potential of your team and your projects.
Couldn't have said it better myself. It's what separates the good projects from the truly great ones.
Absolutely. All right, everyone, that's our deep dive for today. Hopefully you found it helpful, and keep those lines of communication open.
And remember, it's a continuous journey. Always be learning, always be improving.
That's right. Until next time, 6-1.